Hello and welcome. I am Cy with Things Very Good, and today I wanted to share with you on fasting, autophagy, and tea. So recently I watched this video. I forget who the author is, but I believe he's the author of The Pleasure Trap, and he was talking about the benefits of fasting, and we're going to take a look at those. But first of all, I was inspired by it, and I thought I do want to do some fasting. And then I also realized that I was drinking a lot of tea, and I was experiencing some withdrawal, probably from the caffeine in the tea. And I wanted to just give you this insight that I have about fasting after I considered fasting. And I've done this before. I've fasted. I've done a dry fast for a day. I've done several day-long water fasts. I've fasted for about 3 days on just water alone. I've did a 6-day juice fast. So I have some experience with it, and I know how to do it. It's easy. It's nothing that anybody couldn't do for a day, in my opinion. But the tea thing came up because it is probably part of the reason that I started to think about fasting, because I wasn't feeling as good as normal. And what I do believe is one of the reasons why is I got to a point where I was having a little bit more tea than I normally do lately, and then I think I started to experience withdrawal symptoms from the caffeine in the middle of the day. And I didn't have more, but I thought, okay, yes, it's time to have only half of the amount of tea tomorrow, and maybe I'll go a day or two without it. I don't know yet, but so this morning I halved the amount of tea that I normally have, which I've done before too, and that kind of lets you to have the tea without going through severe withdrawal. But the thing that was great is just having half of the amount of tea that I had yesterday. I feel actually pretty good, and I'm starting to experience a feeling that I have often felt when I have fasted before, and it's a good feeling, which means that my body definitely needed a break or a fast from tea or caffeine. So the first insight that I wanted to share with you was just that, you do some things that maybe you like, but maybe you are overindulgent sometimes, and you know that it's affecting you in a negative way. So I would just encourage you to do something like give it up for a day, or maybe do half of it that you normally do for a day. That works really good with caffeine, because you don't go through severe withdrawal, but you do experience the feeling of withdrawal, but you actually might feel better than when you're getting to that feeling that you've really overindulged. And that's what I experienced today. So that being said, I may do a complete fast tomorrow with just water. I want to talk with you about what is really inspiring, and has always been inspiring since I've known about it, when I think about fasting, and that is autophagy.
Particularly autophagy, the body's ability to go in there and eat up broken down or damaged cells or cancer cells, is not suppressed but rather enhanced during fasting. And we know this because you can measure all kinds of indicators of immune system function: helper, killer T cell activity, neutrophil phagocytosis, etc. These all tend to be enhanced during fasting, including lysosomal activity, which is how intracellular debris is cleaned up.
And so basically, autophagy is your body eating parts of itself, but it's not eating it in the way that you think it is. What it actually does is it's cleaning up cells that are damaged or dead, and using them as a form of fuel for the body, basically. And I just think that is very inspiring, and it makes your whole body's energy system work more efficiently when your body has a chance to clean up like this. So I'm very fascinated with autophagy, and I think that's a reason enough to go for at least a 1-day water fast. That being said, it seems to be believed by many religions that fasting is a good thing, and probably anybody who has fasted for a day realizes why.
Every major religion has this tradition about fasting. They talk about it for spiritual reasons, they talk about it for health reasons, and there's probably a reason for that, because when people fast, it changes the way they think about themselves and the world around them.
You may go through a little bit of anxiety, for example, because you don't have your food or anything to satisfy your cravings, and that might make you more aware of other things in your life. But usually if you go for a day without food, you start to feel better and you start to have a more positive outlook on life. And that is pretty much what I've experienced almost every time that I've fasted. And another benefit, one benefit alone, is that when you do fast, when you do have food again, you really appreciate it and you are looking forward to it. It is something that you don't take for granted as much, and you can taste things better. For example, you go a day without salt and you may experience that if you have something salty, that it's too much salt, for example.
Fasting is a really useful tool because after fasting, good foods taste good.
So let's go ahead and look at a clip from this video and see what some of those benefits of fasting are.
Another thing fasting does is it reboots the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is the part of the nervous system that controls the things you don't think about. For example, if you were to go out running and your heart didn't speed up, you wouldn't get enough blood flow and you'd die. It's the autonomic or automatic nervous system that controls that. And the autonomic nervous system has two parts, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and they work in contrast with each other to keep each other balanced. So, for example, if your sympathetic nervous system tone is too high, you might have a problem like constipation because the autonomic nervous system controls peristalsis. Or if the parasympathetic tone becomes too high, you might have diarrhea. So balancing out the autonomic nervous system, it turns out to be an important issue. But the most powerful method I've ever seen to normalize the autonomic nervous system, it works like if you have a corrupted hard drive and things aren't working and you reboot the hard drive, you don't know why, but it kind of clears everything up and starts working again. That's essentially what happens in fasting. It's like rebooting the internal mechanisms of the body and rebalances the autonomic nervous system. This is just a summary chart of things that we know increase in fasting and decrease in fasting. We know that glucose and insulin decrease, as IGF-1, which is insulin growth factor 1 associated with aging, also decreases. Leptin, blood pressure, heart rate, mTOR, as well as the microbial load. Inflammatory markers go down in fasting. And essentially all of the abnormalities associated with metabolic syndrome. We mentioned gut diversity. You have about 1,000 strain of bacteria in the healthy gut of a human being, and fasting helps reboot that. Fasting and exercise are undoing the consequences of dietary excess, and I'm going to suggest that for most of these diseases, particularly metabolic syndrome and all the related conditions, it's dietary excess that's the driving force behind that. And anything you do that reduces dietary excess is likely to be helpful. And the reason fasting seems to be the most helpful is because it's the most effective at dealing with the consequences of dietary excess.
All right, so now that we've gone through some of those benefits, I just wanted to check back in with you and say, I really just think it's a great thing. I may do it tomorrow, one way or another. I think that if you are not feeling your best, or if you've been kind of feeling less good than usual, you might consider doing a full day water fast, or maybe just fasting from something that you have that maybe is kind of indulgent, like caffeine, and seeing, what you feel like at the end of the day, or maybe the next morning. I really appreciate you watching this video. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and share, and let others know about this channel. And if you want to support me in this channel, you can find links below this video that benefit you and me. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.